Couple of important acupuncture points that will help you to understand the exercises even further. Now, first point to talk about is the so-called pericardium 8 or Lao Gong. Palace of Work is a rough translation from Chinese. Now, this point is in the middle of your palm. And when I say in the middle of your palm, just make a gentle fist, and where the tip of your fourth finger is touching your palm, that's where this point is located at. It's between the third and the fourth metacarpal bone, directly in the middle of your palm. This point is quite important to release excessive heat. So for instance, if in summer you have someone close to a heat stroke or something like that, it would also be a very good idea not just try to cool down their head, to bring them, take them into the shadow or something like that, but also maybe just take a piece of ice and put it in their palms for them to cool down even faster. This point is also quite important because with this point you have this direct access to your interaction with the environment, and that's also why this point is in your palm. It's the in aspect of the fire element once again, and the pericardium structurally is the sac where the heart is built into. We use this point in a couple of exercises whenever we expose the palm. So obviously we use this point in our number one exercise, supporting the heaven, because right there we interlace the fingers. The interlaced fingers are then turned with the palms out and you stretch up. Now, when you do this, just try this out. No matter how you interlace them, whether or not the right pinky finger is out there or it's actually the left, just try both versions. No matter how you do it, it's always the middle finger that actually gets the most stretch. Now, the pericardium meridian ends on the middle finger, so not only do I open this point in the middle of my palm, I also stretch the rest of the pericardium meridian that runs out to my middle finger in this exercise, in this supporting the heaven exercise. Obviously, I also expose this point, thus activating this point in number 2 exercise, in pulling the bow exercise, because here with the flex of the palm and this opening up, pushing out almost, and this differentiation between my elbow on one side and the pushing the palm out on the other side, that's actually again something that activates my pericardium point. Interesting here, I only have a very gentle, soft fist on my left palm, so I have a complete yin-yang inversion again. I have this opening aspect, which would be a yang aspect for my pericardium point, and I have this in aspect where the point is closed on the other hand. So once again, it's an yin-yang principle. I have this differential between left and right, which again supports energy flow. Next very important point, I still stick to the pericardium meridian. Pericardium meridian. Next interesting point, pericardium 6. Pericardium 6 is actually 3 fingers from your wrist. So when you bend your wrist and you take 3 fingers in here, it's 3 fingers down, directly in between the 2 tendons you feel here, between the 2 bones. Pericardium 6 or Neiguan is the so-called inner gateway. There is an outer gate as well. The outer gate is the Weiguan, which is the triple heater 5 point. The inner and outer gateway, or inner and outer gate rather, those are very important points that regulate, I think we've been talking about this in the triple heater and the pericardium, that regulate how, once again, you interact, how far you let something touch you, something that has to do with your work or something that comes out or closer to you in your emotional area where, say, you're really intimate with someone, rather your friends or your family or your loved one or whatever. And so the Negran and the Wagran points, they're there to balance this out, to balance your interaction and to help you protect and still interact. Not protect in terms of wall, but protect and interact in a safe and positive way. Both points, obviously, are gently activated whenever we bend our wrists, which once again is in the first exercise, which is in the second exercise, which is in the third exercise. So we have a couple of exercises that literally work on those 2 points as well. Another very important acupuncture point is called Bai Hui. Bai Hui is the highest point on your head, and its counterpart is the so-called Hui Yin. The Hui Yin is the lowest part of your abdomen or of your body, of your core, so not counting the legs. The Hui Yin is located directly between the scrotum and the beginning of the anus, so in the middle of the perineum. And for women, it's located between the vaginal canal and the anus. So there is a lot less space, obviously, in women, but still the point is there. It's exactly in the middle on the perineum. Those 2 points represent the lowest and the highest points of my core body structure. They are very important too, because those points you also differentiate in both directions. So you point the Hui Yin down. Again, the Hui Yin also has to do with this water energy, similar to the Yung Chuan. I'm going to talk about this point in a second. It's down on the sole of my feet. And the Bai Hui, once again, that has to do with your higher functions, with your spiritual functions. And this point is pointing towards the heaven. So when you do, for instance, the first exercise, not only do you try to push your arms up and your feet into the ground, but you also try to differentiate between the Bai Hui and the Hui Yin in order for the rest of the body to be perfectly aligned between them. Another interesting point, in the first intercostal space right underneath your processus coracoideus. Your processus coracoideus is right on the front of your shoulder here. You'll feel a tiny P-shaped bone here, and just underneath this bone in the first intercostal space you'll have a small depression, and in this depression, that's lung number 1. Lung number 1 is a very important point as well. Obviously, we work on the lung meridian in the second exercise, in pulling the bow, because there, with this figure L shape, we stretch the lung meridian, because the lung meridian runs up here all the way out on the inside and then on the edge of my forearm and up to my thumb area. And we have another part. The lung is coupled with the colon, and the colon meridian actually starts from my index finger and runs back up my body. Now, the colon meridian and the lung meridian, if you make this figure L shape, they both form sort of a small triangle here. There is also a triangle in your structure formed by your metacarpal 1 and metacarpal 2 bone. And right in the middle of this triangle, when you make this figure L shape, is a small depression as well. That's my Hegu, my colon 4, my large intestine number 4 point. Also a very important point because it stimulates the immune system and it regulates pain. It helps to regulate pain. Why? As soon as also very interesting, because this point not only has an energetic aspect that completely can't be explained but observed. This point is one of those points where there has been extensive research in a Western way as well. And it's quite interesting because when you stimulate this point, you'll produce a lot more endorphins and your body gets flooded with endorphins, so with your happy hormones. And endorphins is also those hormones that get released, for instance, when you eat chocolate. And those endorphins then actually, on a physical biochemical level, will numb part of the pain that you might feel at a certain point. All right, so the lung meridian and the colon meridian, the large intestine meridian, they are obviously both targeted in my number 2 exercise as well. The lung number 1 point is also the alarming point of the lung. So if this point hurts a lot, then either you live in a city with bad air, or you smoke too much, or there is a lung infection close by. This point obviously is also the point that we work on in our number 4 exercise. We have this opening aspect of the shoulder. Remember, I told you not to rotate the arm, but to pull it back. This pulling back motion actually opens the lung 1 and the lung 2, which is directly above it, opens the beginning point of the lung meridian, which increases the flow, the energy flow in this area. Once again, the lung is part of the metal aspect in our being, and the metal being the structure, which is also one of the reasons why I take this rather rigid looking structure in my number 4 exercise, which isn't rigid at all, because I have a dynamic in there, but it still has a lot less movement than many of the bigger exercises that we are doing. Bigger in terms of more movement with our whole body, with our legs, with our arms, and so on. There are many acupuncture points that one could talk about. A couple of those points are important to understand how the exercises work. One more of those points is directly in the middle of your axilla here. That's the heart number 1, the starting point of the lung meridian. Now you have to know the heart meridian. The heart meridian starts in here in your axilla and runs out down here and on the inside of my arm all the way out to the pinky finger. That's one of the reasons why in the number 5 exercise we turn our palms down with the thumbs facing backwards when we place them on our feet, on our upper legs, because in doing so we have this rotational gentle pull on the heart meridian. We have this spiral aspect in the heart meridian, and we open up the elbows to the side, which opens up the heart 1 point in your axilla. So the heart meridian gets actually gently activated in a spiral way, which is again very interesting and to the point. Why? Because the muscle structure of the heart itself is a spiral. So the heart itself is just one big spiraled muscle, and the heart meridian itself gets the best workout when you use gentle spiral movement on it. All right, one more really important acupuncture point is on the sole of our feet. Now right here in the middle of my foot, in the middle of the foot, when I say between left and right, and it's on the edge between the first third and the lower 2/3 of my foot. So when you pull in your toes, a depression will be obvious. A depression between the ball of your big toe and the ball of your pinky toe. And in this deepest point of this depression here, that's where the Yung Chuan lies. The Yung Chuan is actually the kidney 1 acupuncture point. That's the starting spot of the kidney meridian, and it's the only acupuncture point that we have on the sole of our foot. It's very important that from there We draw in energy from the earth in the exercises. It's important to understand that. But this is also one of those points that is most susceptible to cold. So when you stand on a very cold surface and you try to nourish your kidney energy, that's not going to work. Which is why for the Chinese it's extremely important to rather always wear shoes or to just walk on a warm surface when they don't wear any shoes or they go barefoot. Because walking barefoot without coverage of the Yongquan will release kidney energy, battery life if you want, into the ground. But if the surface is warm, it will nourish the kidney chi. It will nourish this basic energy, and that's what we are looking for. The end point of the kidney meridian is also quite interesting. It's the kidney 27 point. It's located up here, just underneath my collarbone and in the depression where the collarbone actually meets with the sternum on the left and on the right side. In order to hit the point, you have to press a little bit from left and right. Now, we don't actually massage or press the points here, but obviously in many of the exercises where we use our collarbones, this point also gets activated. Remember I said that the kidneys, the water element, has also to do with fear. Now, the kidney 27 point up here is one of the strongest points to release fear. Not release fear in terms of, whoa, and then you have fear. No, exactly the opposite. It's there to get rid of fear, to put it in the simplest words possible. So for instance, if you have someone who is asthmatic, asthmatics often get into a habit of fear, into this obvious problem with breathing. Now when you start to press this point, this kidney 27 points on the left and on the right side, this will help them to release this fear cramp. I don't say just use only this method if you have someone with this problem. I definitely don't say that. But those points can help tremendously in such a case. All right, there is one more important thing I want to talk to you about, and it's called the Ming Meng. The Ming Meng is an acupuncture point similar to Hui Yin and Bai Hui. It's not located on any meridian. It's actually located on the governor vessel. The governor vessel, I talked about vessels before as well, while the meridians are like the pathways on which the chi runs. The vessels are actually the bigger structures, like a small lake or something like that, where we have chi stored. And the governor vessel is the vessel that runs in the back line of my body, in the center back line of my body, from my perineum all the way up until here, and it ends right underneath my nose. Now, the point with the governor vessel is, back there, we have this Ming Meng point. This Ming Meng point is the gate of life force point back there. It's located directly between the second and the third lumbar vertebrae, or rather between the processus spinosi of the second and the third lumbar vertebrae. That again is one extremely important point that has to be heated up if you have any kidney chi problem, in terms of, oh, you feel cold all the time, you're afraid all the time. If you want to balance that out and the kidney jing is affected in some sort, then it's important to heat that point and not to cool it down in any way. This point also gets activated when you round your lower back. So in our sixth exercise, where we roll to the front and grab our toes, this point is obviously one that gets opened up very nicely. Now, using the breathing that I showed you increases pulsation in this point. Pulsation again is a sign of life, not death. A sign of death is stagnation or contraction. A sign of life is pulsation, is this constant change. Now back here, when we are in this bent forward position and we breathe using our stomach, as I showed you, whenever we breathe out and we pull in our belly, we actually open up this back area here where the Ming Meng is located, and we open the processus spinosi. So we open this area and literally can suck in fresh energy back there. In the inhalation, where the belly expands, this point gently closes again. And in the exhalation, it opens up. Now in the exercise, we said that exhaling, we actually try to get rid of stress and fear and stuff like that. And inhaling, we try to take in fresh energy. Yes, that's what happens on a conscious level. But still, and once again, life is based on this yin-yang principle when we look at it from traditional Chinese medicine. And this yin-yang principle says that you can't go 100% out with stuff and 100% in with stuff. So whenever we have an exercise which we try to get rid of something, there is some part of the body where we still have the part that tries to suck in new energy. And whenever we try to get new energy and build energy, there will always be the security valve somewhere in the body structure and in the energy system that uses energy. So it's always both principles present, just at different points. One is bigger and the other is smaller, is stronger and weaker, is more activated or less activated. However you want to put it, structurally bigger and smaller, stronger, weaker in terms of how much energy flows in a given time, and so on. And that's how all these systems work. There are a couple of more interesting acupuncture points. I put them in the PDF file that's obviously attached to the tutorial. And those points are on the back. Those are points that I activate when, for example, I shift my body center in the number 3 exercise. And those points are right back here. They are the connection points for my spleen and for my stomach. They also get activated. They're on the bladder meridian, but the bladder meridian on the back actually has those different aspects. Segmentary connection to all the organs, to my heart, to my liver, to my spleen, to the stomach, even to the triple heater. And all those connection points, they run on the bladder meridian in the rear, but they're specific organ targeted points.